This tale is, as all bard songs are, an adaptation. It may contain adult themes and strong language. Welcome, dear listeners, to Abyss.
Welcome to episode 23 of Abyss. Who are you? What are you? And to celebrate International Strange Music Day, what is the strangest music that you would suggest to someone? Starting with Shiraz.
Hello, I'm Shiraz, and I used to play Ishidoro, the Dragonborn rogue who liked to eat things and do science. Strange Music Day, International Strange Music Day. I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of strange music in India. I mean, you all have seen that very famous video of the turban gentleman who is the equivalent of the Indian Power Rangers. Have you seen that video? Because I will. No. Yeah. That's the one. I will share it after for research purposes for everyone else. But that is definitely strange as fuck.
So, next we have Wednesday.
Hi, I'm Wednesday, and I played Layla the Tiefling. Inadvertently killed people by hitting them with a marble shovel over the back of the head many times, except for Rasthikos. And what kind of strange music would I introduce people to?
Yep.
Something from South Africa. There is a band called The Antwoord, which in English means the answer, and they are super strange.
They are
like these really trashy Afrikaans. Well, I don't even know if they actually are Afrikaans. I don't really know much about them, but they're like really weird looking.
The only band I know that are from South Africa.
Yeah, and their music is really strange. Like, it is really weird. My favorite song is called Babies on Fire. It is the best. It is the best.
Half of it's ridiculously catchy and the other half is just weird. That's what I found with the Antwoord.
Yeah. And I don't even understand half the words because I can't surrender, so I'm just like, okay. And then swear words, so I'm like, okay, good.
I always keep getting the rhythm to Fight Bim Bim stuck in my head.
Oh, yeah.
It's just something about it that just always comes back to my head.
Yeah, but that's the thing with their music. It just sits there. You don't know what to do with it.
Next we have Tauno.
Hi, I'm Tauno, and I play Rasthikos, the impoverished noble who, as previously mentioned, has been hit in the back of the head with a shovel and lived to tell the tale. The strangest music that I would recommend to other people.
Yes.
I mean, I've said, maybe not in this company, but I've said before that my musical taste usually falls outside of the bounds of most regular ones. So I don't think it's strange enough that I could just pick anything from, my own library. I guess strange music I could recommend. Old Danish folk music. We had a big contest in the 1860s to make a national anthem, and I mean, they're not great songs or that strange, but they're certainly interesting considering we just had our greatest national loss ever and we chose that time to make a national anthem.
I mean, the line between interesting and strange is very blurred nowadays.
True.
Yeah.
Alright, next we have Dragon.
Hello, I'm Dragon. I was playing Nitra, the Drow sorcerer, who is currently still being really freaked out about sunburn and how can everyone else look around without it hurting their eyes. International Strange Music Day. Where shall I start? So I mostly listen to rock and metal, some of which is, what you'd expect, some of which is really, really, really weird. I think the weirdest one, I will pick it because it really freaked out one of our guildmates, Lemon, because it's a Dutch song, but it's done in a dialect that's quite different from standard Dutch, and it's completely made up about this person who lived in prehistoric times, and he rode about on a mastodon, and it was deliberately created just so that they could use all the words in this old language.
This sounds amazing.
It's called Vulgaris Magistralis. It's very entertaining.
It's a brilliant song.
Sounds exciting.
Sounds like something you would find in a D&D campaign.
Yeah, it kind of is. It's fine, I can look for it.
No, I've got it. It's fine. It's behind the oak, so.
Yeah, so when they made this band, they essentially were like, okay, we're only going to use like our native dialect version of Dutch, but apparently it's quite strange compared to standard Dutch.
Mm-hmm.
I like the illustration. Very cool.
And when they get to the bit about a mastodon, for the image for the mastodon, they have like a children's jigsaw puzzle in the video.
Sweet.
So that's the actual video.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's adorable. Okay, and finally this week we have Susie.
Hi, I'm Susie. I played 13, the Ancient One, and creator of Soups, who's Goblin. For strange music, I recommend a fellow called Adriano Celentano, and the song is called Presen Colin is in a Cala Ilu Sol, which is an Italian singer.
What?
And let's listen to the story. So this guy really liked American pop music, really liked it, but he didn't speak a word of English, and he wanted to write an American pop music song. So he did, and it's mostly words that sound like English, and occasionally there's like an "oh yeah," but it's the weirdest thing to listen to, right? Because you're sitting there going, I think I understand what he's saying, but you're not, because it's literally all nonsense.
Wow.
But it's so much fun.
I mean, when you started, I thought you were just making shit up.
Oh no. He even had a music video and everything. It's beautiful.
Oh, okay. I like what I'm seeing.
Yeah. But for music that people don't usually listen to, I would recommend listening to some bagpipes out in a field. Not in a town, not in a hall. Go listen to them in a field, because that's where they're meant to be played.
Anyway, where did we get to last week? Did we get to the end of episode 13, I think it was, with Visivant's Tower?
Yes.
So, on that note, Mr. Shiraz, if you had any questions you wish to ask about episodes 1 to 13 before we quickly move on to 14 and beyond.
See that point where we were just traveling through Blindenstone, I think? The gnome village, the deep gnome village. There was a point where we were going door to door and checking for like valuables, and we meet the team. What was the purpose of that? Like, that just seemed like really out of place.
That was that Blindenstone was slowly being reoccupied by people coming back to it, and the point of them was to go through all the buildings and make sure there weren't like Drow or other people living in it, so they could be safely inhabited again.
That makes so much more sense. You know, the first 10 episodes or so, I was pretty nervous, like, because I'd never been part of like a podcast before, so I just kind of feel that after we killed the first demon, I kind of was like, okay, yeah, now I can do this. Now I have no problems.
After you stop stress eating.
dressed up stress-eating things like slimes and everything else, and creating the world's most efficient garbage disposal system.
Kind of like that dinosaur that they had in the Flintstones. Like their garbage disposal one. They just pull you out a wee drawer.
Do you know, like, in the Flintstones, that was the most satisfying part when all the dinosaurs just used to voice their concerns about their employment.
Yeah.
Let's look at the camera and go, you think you've got a crap job?
Yeah. I don't know why, but when I was a kid, I was funny, but now I understand.
That was there for the parents.
So, we're on episode 14, which was the first episode in the Labyrinth. What were all your collective memories about episode 14?
That I can't count how many turns I've taken.
String!
The shop was like the one that really got me off guard. Because I was like in labyrinth mode. I was like, oh, there's gonna be traps, there's gonna be... there's a shop? And they're selling helmets?
Well, we'd literally just found a dead gnoll. And it was like, okay, so we need to...
Let's shovel this into the bag of holding.
Well, we
mince
needed
it up
to gather
later.
a bucket's worth of gnoll blood. And we had a dead gnoll that was mostly in one piece. And
Was
some
our
bags of
plan to
holding.
did we plan to get Rasthikos to like smash it with the hammer until it was liquid or something? Was that our plan? Because I don't
We
imagine
pretty much
blenders
said,
were a
stuff it in
thing.
the bag. We'll stuff it in the bag and then we'll deal with it later.
This may just be me, but I felt most of our plans were, we'll take care of it later. Just put it in the bag holding.
Stick it in a barrel of salt or a bucket.
No one thought
That I actually... Look, the salt I really had a use for, because I was going for the whole I fight demons, so I'm just going... I read somewhere that like consecrated salt was supposed to be used in rituals, so I was like, that's what I want. And then we left all of it in a town with a
You left
drugged
all
up
of
dragon. I mean,
yourself.
let's not talk about who did it.
In fairness, we were kind of escaping for our
Yes.
life. So...
Okay. What I didn't understand, and you could probably tell this, is why when you sort of realised there was a trap one direction, did you keep going the same direction as the traps were?
We lost count, honestly.
We lost count of directions, but also we're in a labyrinth. There's always going to be traps.
And
So-
traps have purpose.
Yeah, they don't tend to
The-
just be random.
If you are making random traps, then there's one that wouldn't be random. You're doing it to disguise others. It's like you shouldn't put more than 2 traps on a locked door, because one is enough to catch anyone who doesn't check. The second will catch anyone who checks once, and there's no reason for more than 2 because people are just going to keep checking for more once they find a second trap.
I can't tell if I want you, Tauno, to ever like DM a game for me, or if I should get you to DM a game for me, because that's the diabolical shit ever. Like 2
Well,
traps
then
in a
it's
door.
like-
I'm gonna try that.
Then I just put 3 traps on there. Once you find 2, you go, oh, he mentioned once 2 is enough. That's the third one.
I'm borrowing that.
That's why you always have a thing of they take something off the door and it starts whirring. It doesn't do anything, it just starts whirring.
And then it clicks.
Yeah.
That's just mean.
I mean, I had a party get obsessed with a wardrobe once because it was locked and it was a really easy DC to unpick it. But the player rolled like a 2 or a 3 or something. So I had the wardrobe door case sprung open, smacked them in the face, and then closed shut. And then they were totally obsessed with this wardrobe. They thought it was a mimic, and I was all that was in it was like a pouch of copper coins as well. It was just a wardrobe.
But I love those moments because that's when you hold your head in your hands and really let the insanity flow. You're like, yes, it is a mimic. Yes, it explodes when it dies.
No, that's when you swap the bag of copper coins for a small straw doll.
And that's all it is.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
And it just
I
smiles
actually
at
did
them, and
remember.
everywhere they put it down, it just seems to always be looking at them, smiling.
I actually did remember a question from the earlier episodes that I wanted to ask. What was the deal with Sebi?
Sebi
Like,
was brought in as a toy version of Cerberus to tie into the Infernal, and also because I wanted a sort of toy for the Pudding King to be like he's still kind of
obsessing
childish and
over.
he still kind of gets obsessive really easily. So
See, I forgot about Sebi halfway through the game, and I realized 13 has been carrying it all this time. Like, it just retroactively retconned everything. And I was like, I want to bring up the doll, but if I bring up the doll, it's going to become a thing. So I'm not going to bring it up.
Well, every time someone tried to take it off her, 13 bit them, so...
Yeah.
Yeah,
She didn't want anybody talking about Sebi. Sebi was hers.
So the labyrinth, yes. So you got through the first part by putting the knoll in the bag, and then buying Rasthikos a new hat.
Minotaur skull,
Yes.
which
and
then promptly got destroyed on a trap.
yeah, and then
So much
you
for gifts.
gave the gnolls a lot of gold for a lot of mushrooms.
They
I mean,
were
to
good
be fair,
mushrooms.
Yeah, we needed them.
And we find ourselves back at the start of the labyrinth, so 13 goes with string and just runs around until we find the Null settlement.
Yep.
Which was surprising.
Yes, I wasn't expecting that.
What, the sort of small ramshackle inn where everyone wandering around high on mushrooms?
That
The being
and
high on
the
mushrooms bit didn't faze me too much.
the ethical dilemma of Minotaur meat was much more interesting. I mean,
No
to this
dilemma
day,
about it.
to this day, there are factions in the group who feel that they were justified in not eating me.
Well,
I
the
can't even say it with a straight face.
gnolls are very much the belief of meat is meat.
Yes. Which is the camp that Ishidoro and 13 follow. It's like,
Seems
meat
to
is
be,
meat,
yes.
must eat. Well, to be fair,
It's
they were
alright.
using-
She took in the essence of the Minotaurs and became the ancient one. That's what
It's
really
not alright,
happened.
guys.
It was a
really not
spiritual
alright.
awakening.
I was just saying, they used all of the
No.
Minotaur, so it was pretty sustainable.
No, it's really gross. Minotaur people too. Like you
Yeah.
guys. No.
Hard
And
sweat
I'm
down
like,
the middle.
I'm half infernal. Like no.
Which is
I
like
know,
yours
pretty
is a-
certain at some point in her life, 13 has eaten other goblin. Not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
Actually, at this point, I
And
don't
we-
think. Was it ever mentioned? Does Layla have hooves or feet?
I
She
drew-
has
I-
feet actually.
I
She
drew
has
her
horns
feet.
and feet.
I think hooves is the least popular tiefling visual people choose, but it is.
Mm.
I think it is possible, and if you had them, that would be kinship with the Minotaurs.
Just means more glue.
Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking more about like the ability to wear shoes.
That is also an important one.
It's like fashion overrules,
Yeah, but also
body
like
part.
you don't have to take like when you make the character or whatever. But the whole thing was that she was already weird looking enough, and she felt awkward about it. So if I'd added a thing, it'd been really difficult to play, like super awkward.
That could be worse. You could have had wings.
Wings are at least pretty, and you can do things with them.
Knock everything over.
Yeah, you can't do anything with horns. Like they're just there.
Again, like, I remember you mentioning that the mushrooms, everyone was high on them, and they seemed... I don't know if I checked during the game, because I remember listening to it, and I don't think I asked the question, but were they the same mushrooms that Timberwolf was,
Yes.
partaking?
Yes.
Okay.
All the mushrooms were
And
the
they were
same
just-
kind of thing, and all the mushrooms came from this Null encampment.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense, because the dwarves did kind of come in at some point for the egg. So they must have seen both things.
But
Yeah.
yes, the Nulls are basically there because they're fighting the Minotaur, and they're just basically like everyone there is just sort of mushroom farmers, effectively. Mushroom farming and mining, I think, is the only two things they did. And there was going to be a well in the
And-
middle that threw bones into it, but I didn't get a chance to do that before you were swept away to the next part.
Yes. Indeed.
Yeah. I got press ganged into the war effort in exchange for a shiny dagger.
Yep.
I wasn't expecting that. I thought I had more time before I had to go serve the Great Knoll Army.
You've been drafted.
Yeah. I would literally forcibly drafted. They're like, no communication required. They were like, oh, you have a weapon, come with us.
Yenago needs you.
You're ours now.
Yeah. It's like, listen up, meat, you're the first in line. I remember that you took us around the corner and then the people who press ganged me just like kind of gave me the thumbs up and then ran around the corner and immediately got decimated.
Yeah, because that was the other thing that they did a lot of, was fight Minotaurs and try and take down Baphomet, and that did not end well for them.
I believe Nikolai's description was, you see limbs flying. Like,
I mean, they went up against a demon, a god level demon, so...
Yeah.
He wasn't heavy, he was my brother. Like, quite literally, like,
My brother.
and just got smashed. Like,
Oh, jeez. Wow.
yeah, I had the total Nam experience.
So after chasing after the gnolls and having a nice meal of meat, you sort of fell through the crack in the earth and fell into this sort of dark ravine that basically continued in episode 15. So was there anything else about episode 14 you want to ask about, remember about?
I just like that the human tavern keeper was very clearly just a mushroom drug dealer.
Oh yeah.
It was just that I can get you some mushrooms. I mean, it's not expensive.
Really pushing that product.
They look like they might actually have some things of value. Let's get them hooked.
Oh yeah, totally. It was the fact that there was like mushroom wine as well, which you nearly didn't check, which would have been hilarious.
Yes.
Was it
That's
flammable?
true.
No, it was just very hallucinogenic.
I did want to ask, like, I remember when we were going down the tunnels when we found the giant mountain of bones, you mentioned that the tunnels were made by something, or like they looked like they had grooves in it. Was there a plan to have us like encounter one of those worms, or was
Not
it just
initially,
like a
but I kept it open in case there was anything mentioned later on.
Is there one like in the original book? Like, is there a
Not
purple
really,
worm
no.
running?
But in the original, you don't have the stuff underneath the labyrinth. It's all just parts of the labyrinth.
Okay.
Because the labyrinth itself exists. In the middle of the labyrinth is the maze engine, which is what I based the demon engine on in the next episode.
I quite like that it was a separate level on it. Because
Well,
it gave more of a feel of age and like time had passed. So while the labyrinth was there, this other thing had occurred.
Yeah.
I
Although
was
it might have
super
been there
scared.
first.
I was super scared in that entire episode when we were underneath and we found the mountain of bones. I was like, yeah, we're all gonna die now. This is the point. This is it.
So we'll move on to episode 15. So what was your other memories of episode 15, which was the one with the demon engine and the ended in 13 becoming the chosen one?
Ancient one, thank you.
Oh, the ancient one, sorry.
Just 3 words kept flashing in my head saying, do not touch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I had to touch it. Totally.
I think the thing that really freaked me out initially, apart from this tunnel dug by a burrowing creature, was seeing these giant stones and then realising that they're the angels, or they're the creatures that have the angel feathers on them. And that was quite freaky, because it was like, okay, these are really big creatures. Whatever took them down is probably still here. That's not good. And then we wouldn't go inside the circle.
Yeah, that was a big concern.
I remember the throwing rocks things inside, yeah.
When in doubt,
with a spear.
yes, when in doubt, poke the thing from far away.
completely sensible.
Oh, I thought the imagery was really lovely in this episode. Like those statues and like realizing that that's where the angel's feathers would come from, you know, that kind of, I thought it was lovely. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. Like that's also why I think like Layla didn't feel threatened at all. She was just like, oh, this is pretty, I'm gonna touch everything.
Fair, yep. And then we saw the Drow.
Yep.
The blind Drow inside the circle next to the engine. And that was somewhat concerning.
Oh yeah.
Although we didn't realise at this point like how significant he was.
Yeah, that was one of the details we never actually got out because Vizier never really told us more apart from cribbing about losing his work.
He just absorbed the power from the book and lost it with everyone.
I meant like he never described Grumsh being blind or like when I first saw the Drow I was like, okay, this might be important, the book might be important, but as soon as it turned out to be Braille it was just like, now what do I do with this?
Yeah, because it was something that none of us had the knowledge or skill to read.
Yeah. Was that so we took it back to Vizier?
No, I think, well, it was originally designed for that kind of idea, but it was just that kind of like, what would cause someone, if they'd stolen someone's book, to struggle to copy it exactly? And the way it would struggle to copy exactly as if it'd been copied from someone who could see to someone who couldn't see.
That's pretty cool.
So it was kind of the reason that there were so many issues with like the Demon Engine and being unstable was because there were numerous mistakes between Vizerin's version and Grump's version. Because whoever had converted it from one to the other for Grump just kept missing bits out or not getting things exactly as they should be.
And were the angels actually angels?
In our version, no. They were just people who'd been sacrificed to each of the demons in turn. And when they'd been sacrificed, their essence had been basically put into the engine, and that's what powered it, effectively. In the book, randomly, there is a room with 8 angels in it. Because of course there is.
Okay.
It's just like, yeah, there's a room with some angels in it. Why?
Yeah.
Oh, it just is.
Going back to Layla's point, I like the other description, the bit about it being really cold down here. Because that was something that normally not associated with like infernal things.
Yeah.
So it automatically like threw me off guard. Like it kind of made it seem all the more eerie for me.
Yeah.
Like as it is, like anxiety levels are super high. It's cold. I was like, okay, this is where we're going to die.
Yeah, it was just trying to create something that felt like unnaturally horror, and just sort of that kind of like, there's something here, it's immense power, but it's not what we'd expect kind of thing. It's more to create intrigue and confusion.
As a side note, ever since I've started playing Abyss, my players have been complaining that my stuff has got extra creepy. So, thanks for that. I've been taking notes.
No problem. I love writing horror stuff. One of these years I will write something. I'll be more content to write something darker that I'll be happy to actually run, because I feel that there's times I write dark things and then I always aim to light them back up before I do them for people, because I feel that a lot of people I don't think would cope with a lot of the actual psychological stuff that I like the ideas of, if you know what I mean. Because I feel that there's a sort of point where you can kind of go, that's something that would actually, I mean, because we do Theatre of the Mind, obviously, I love the idea of just creating that everything is beginning to just slowly creep in, like the atmosphere works, what you find, what you interact with, all kind of just begins to sort of creep to itself to become this overarching, unseen horror. And I think that works really well, whereas I think that, I mean, like some of the stuff I used to do in Cyberpunk, for example, when it being recorded, it was a lot darker, if Dragon remembers that. And there was things that I remember her telling me that she still gets like shivers and shakes about now that we did back then. But I don't know if I've grown as much as I think I have in that time.
I mean,
Susie and I were sitting there actually, like our hearts were actually racing, sitting at that table when we were being chased in Cyberpunk.
That sounds amazing.
Chase scenes are always fun. I was having a discussion with a friend like the atmosphere that was trying to be created, I think, by our DM was this kind of, you're very small and insignificant and everything out there can really squish you. But her character, we were like leveled up and she had all these plans for like beating this monster and beating that monster. And she was like, if there's combat available, I always want to go for it. And I'm like, but sometimes if you let the DM chase you, you get a sort of a different experience that sticks with you more than sitting waiting for your turn to roll to hit something. I mean, I know that's not how combat quite works, the way we play, but there's still that kind of, you'll remember your mad dash escape more than, just smashing another monster.
Yeah, I mean, I think that because I'm much more likely to do a sort of narrative story rather than a combat-heavy story, you'll probably see a lot more of, like, things and tales and sort of like a lot of people explaining and talking about what's actually happening rather than it being, the beast appears behind you, all roll to see if you die. That's Plummet.
Yeah.
That's what Plummet's for. And Plummet does it to the stupid degree of people falling over and getting limbs ripped off all the time.
I noticed that the mortality rate in Plummet is incredibly high.
Yes. The last one we just recorded, which probably won't go live for a few weeks, it started with someone doing a misroll, cutting someone's leg off, then accidentally cutting off their own arm.
Oh, jeez.
It's
It's what happens when people carry very sharp, deadly weapons,
swords. Yep.
but aren't necessarily that well trained in using them.
I'm always in the favor of like keeping consequences at very close notice when I'm playing with my players. Because
like when my Tiefling barbarian smashed through the crate because it was locked and broke the crystal sword inside.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh yeah, smash!
Yeah.
I was maintain the best stories are the ones where you let the players have free reign, but you have free reign to react back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel that, as personally speaking, the GM's primary goal is of course like running a narrative, but not only that, but a GM's goal should be to be the arbiter regardless of what that consequence is. Because in my earlier times when I first started GMing, I used to pull my punches quite a lot. I didn't want my party to die, I didn't want them to suffer, but now I'm just like, yeah, if you fuck up, man. You're dead.
I kind of have a belief that, if it starts the, yep, you fucked up, and it starts like ticking down what's going to happen to them, if they can find a way to scrabble back up, that's great, because it encourages, fast thinking and trying to think of how they can get out of it. But if it just keeps sliding down and down and down and down until eventually it just goes, just that kind of, oh well, we fucked up, we'll start again. I think that it's the best style of play. I think that, apart from Plummet, because Plummet is sort of deliberately that way for a reason, I think having a game where it's 90% dice rolls is just not that fun.
Agreed.
Like, I've had games, like the 4E game that I always mention, where literally we sat around and it was roll, miss, roll, miss, roll, miss, roll, miss, everyone on the table miss, then the monster rolls and it's got plus like 19 on its rolls and stuff like that, and you're just like...
I remember that because that was my first introduction to D&D.
Yep.
And I really wanted to play an illusionist wizard. So I was totally useless. I spent all the combat like standing at the back going,
4 would not
Can we do this? No.
Can we do this? No. Can we do that? No. Can we do this? No. Can we use initiative and do this and hit 2 of them? No, you can hit 1. Right.
Can I put a fireball into the ceiling and bring it down on the crowd of them?
No.
No. But the ceiling's right there. No.
No.
Can I
totally
target? No. Can I do this? No. Can I go and distract people by playing a drum? No.
Can I scream and run away? No.
What's my bonus to hit? 3.
Yeah,
what's your monster's roll to bonus to hit? 12. You know that.
What were you playing?
It was 4th ed.
In any case, that just... I mean, my first experience was... Yeah, I mean, I would put that at... either inexperienced players or just a bad DM or inexperienced DM. Because
it was a DM that had like a story in front of them and they wanted to just read it at you. And it was the thing that bothered me most was it was like there's 5 creatures and only one of them has actual health, but you don't know which one it is. And you roll to hit this one and they go, right, okay, it's dead. Why? Because it only had 1 health. What?
Yep, I felt that was a design flaw. They shouldn't have let you reveal which one was a minion and which one wasn't. Because I constantly feel something that dies in one hit, but I throw like 20 of them.
Yeah.
And that's scary when you're getting swarmed.
Yeah.
I think that was the idea, but like most people just played them as like, oh, these are pawns. And this is a knight, and this is a king. That kind of thing.
All I really remember of that one was I was playing a tank, and it was literally a case of, can I taunt? No. So you can hit anyone you want? Yes. And I can't stop you? No. Can I do this? This will stop you? Oh, well, I guess if you do that, it will stop me. Good. Okay. Well, I'm going to hit you on Fortitude. What? My AC is like 25, yet your Fortitude's like 12, and I'm like... And how much you got plus to that? Plus 7, and you're just like, well, fuck this.
4 was an experiment.
Yeah, I've ranted along about that game many, many times before. I would be really intrigued to have me and Susie sit down one time and record it, and me, her, and Dragon just sit and complain and talk about Cyberpunk one night. Maybe get Amy in as well.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting one for memories, because you guys will remember things I won't ever remember.
Mm-hmm. But we go back to episode 15.
The main part of this episode was really what in the book is called the Maze Engine. Now the Maze Engine is fucking bizarre. Let me just grab my book and I'll read you an exact example.
I have to say my favorite part of this entire episode was 13 becoming the Ancient.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought one of the biggest drama bits was Layla touching the demon cube.
That
And
was
then
like
having
intense.
to frantically try and save her.
Yeah,
How
that
was
was
that
intense.
even intense, guys? I
It
was
was
so
intense.
enamored with how pretty it was.
You
I
were
was
happy
shocked.
being frozen. You were chill, quite literally.
Yeah. But also because I knew if you wanted to defrost me, you could just set me on fire and I would be fine.
Yeah, maybe another team. We did.
The creepiest bit for me of that was like the dead Drow. Like I thought,
Yeah, without the eyes. Oh my god.
yeah, that was a weird revelation, and especially because like 13 was like, nah, I'm not going anywhere near them in Shuri because I know what happens when goblins go near that kind of stuff. So it was really interesting watching like the big people go ahead and have the same experience most goblins would have. Without falling into the machinery.
Yep. So there's two parts of the labyrinth which are interesting. One is I think it's called the Gallery of Angels, which is where these angels are just there. They're just there. There's no reason. They're just there, and they're like turned to stone, and like you can feel their like mental thoughts and stuff like that. And it's kind of like the coffins in Curse of Strahd.
That's quite traumatic.
And you're meant to like chip away these feathers from the back of them. So we kind of kept that in a regard, but I kind of got rid of most of the nonsense with it because it felt too.
Thank you for getting rid of they're trapped inside there aspect of it.
It felt like another one of those, here's 8 things, choose one, have a deal, not like the deal, oh well, have a different deal, and it just was like, oh god.
I think
like
that might
the
be severed from Strahd, in fairness.
Yeah.
I like your description better when they were like chained up and stuff. That like really set the whole pace of, okay, this thing in the center is just danger.
Yeah. What I did was I combined the Maze Engine and the Angels together, so it became this. You could feel that there might be this like sacrificial side to the engine itself, so it felt slightly more harrowing than just, oh yeah, it's just a machine that's got some bright lights on it.
Yeah. Was it spinning cubes inside it originally?
Not in the original version, no. In the original version, I'm
Okay.
going to see if I can find the description of the Maze Engine. 1 second.
You know what it reminded me of? Sorry, it reminded me of like the void in the Who.
The what, sorry?
Oh, yeah.
The void that he looks into, like get his, the on Gallifrey.
To find their name.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of.
Just really says, deep within the labyrinth lies the Maze Engine, a mechanical, magically powered device capable of altering reality. The device looks like a working model of the Great Wheel. It's a 20-foot diameter sphere built 1 foot wide, band magically hardened, and shaped bronze engraved with arcane symbols. Gaps in the hands show various gears and articulation. Arms within the sphere
So it's
rotate and spin.
complete.
So
Sounds like
that's what it originally
astronomical.
looked like. And in our
Yeah,
version,
the
it was
Great
just-
Wheel is one of the D&D multiverse configurations that has been used in the past.
But I'm not convinced it would have meant much to the rest of the group.
Yeah, I mean, information can be scattered around before you find it, which I guess, I mean, if it wasn't going to be used for much, then there's no, I mean, if you weren't interested in Nikoli, there's no reason for it to matter a ton.
I think it was mostly about like the reference. Not having a reference was scarier. So like if I saw something that was familiar, I'd be like, oh, it's that. Whereas like if what he described was this cube within cubes spinning all around, giving out various colors.
The information you could know could be that it is bad. Like, we know what dragons are. When we meet a dragon, we don't just go, oh, that's a dragon. We go, oh, shit, that's a dragon. Information creates context. Information does not remove it.
Yeah, well, you know, I feel the same way whenever I log Discord. I'm like, oh shit, there's dragon.
What the maze engine looked like to me, because I was thinking it must be some sort of gyroscope, and I looked online to find the weird sort of gyroscopes, and I found that, like, a cube that had spinning cubes within it, and when I saw that I went, that's the maze engine. That's what it looks like. It's just this solid cube, and then all the cubes within it are spinning, but whenever the light goes out, it stops spinning and goes completely still. So it's just this like constant, almost like a ball spinning inside, but it's just a cube, and it just went down, 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 and it just was, when you looked in, you could just see which ones were not spinning, and which lights were still moving and stuff like that, and it just made it look much more... I always like the concept of machinery people don't understand, because machinery people don't understand is always more intriguing than machinery people do understand.
Yep.
But the maze engine itself was not going to make it into our version, because the maze engine itself basically is, if anyone, I don't know if it touches it, basically you sort of like kind of whack the maze engine and it activates once, and you need to try and shut it down if you want, and if you let it trigger, you roll a D100 and it triggers and has one of these magical effects. But one of the magical effects is, where is it? It's this one. If you rolled a 9 or a 10 out of 100, the engine emits a bright flash of white light. All player characters are transported back in time, as they are now, to the moment where the adventure began.
Oh.
They appear in the slave pens, unshackled and unbound, with all experience points, skills, abilities, equipments, and memories. Like, I understand why some people would want to run this whole thing again.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a really cool experience. Then you
That
get
would be
to
amazing.
Yeah.
I would like that, yes.
Yeah, because like if you knew ahead of time, you could maybe even try and run forward and stop that first ritual became.
Yeah, you mentioned how in the original, where the book is written, there's a break in the middle, with the first part being escaping the Underdark and the second part being returning to stop the demons. I'm assuming, because we're nearing the end here on our own adventure, that the maze engine doesn't show on until the second part.
Yes, the maze engine is very much in the sort of depths of the labyrinth.
Yeah, because then this allows you to play, I don't know, a ton of references actually for this, but I guess 12 monkeys try to change the past to save the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not something you usually see in an underground exploring, killing demons adventure.
I mean, I think it's one of those things that I think if you do play it, you know, pretty much straight and as the book says, and you do roll that, some groups will love that because they basically get to go through all the adventure they've had yet again, and all the NPCs are just like, how do you know that information already? And they're just like, oh, we just do. And the people will just love that. That'd be a great idea, but I think for me...
For a podcast.
For a podcast, I don't think I could have had another... I mean, that is a very small chance of that happening. That there's lots of other results. There's things like it explodes, there's things like it resurrects the last like big boss you killed. It does a couple of other weird and wonderful things, but I get that there's a sort of random chance something interesting will come from it, but it just felt so random.
Could it just completely undo the adventure, like remove the demons?
I don't think it does. Give me a quick second just to...
I mean, if it does anything good, it would probably be on the top of the list, wouldn't it?
The whole page of stuff it can do. destroys all magic items. I won't tell you all of them, I'll just tell you a couple of them as I go through. I've talked about the returns one, dead character or NPC of the DM's choice. What's a green slad, Tauno?
Slads are sort of... They're from the chaotic plane, sort of chaos embodied, but the slad have happened when it was slightly corrupted, so they are embodied chaos, but with slightly malevolent ideas, with each color being a different point in its life cycle. I can't exactly remember green, but I believe they're big bruises. Blue slad being magic uses, and maybe green. Black slads
are both. They're like magic and melee.
Oh, black slads are also called death slads. They're blue slads that died and came back. I think I might have red and green confused, but yeah, they're basically... Oh yeah, there's also how they reproduce. If you get cut by one of them, they can lay eggs in your wound, which turns you into another slad.
They're like demonic tadpoles. Or battletoads, I can't tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Battletoads is probably a good description.
Couple more
But
weird
the green
things.
ones are the ones that are like sort of an infection type tint to them.
It doesn't kill the demons, but what it does do is if you roll highest on this, everyone gets transported to their original planes of existence.
Oh,
You just get noped out of there.
Get noped out of there.
right. Okay.
That would send the demons back.
I think it's everyone within 120 yards or something like that of the machine, something like that.
Is there a limit to it?
I suppose it's like banishment, right?
The engine emits a flash of violet-white light. All extraplanar creatures within 100 miles of the engine, so yeah, it does get rid of the demons, of the engine are instantly returned to their native planes of existence. So it just
Okay,
pours all
100
demons
miles
out.
should... Yeah, 100
That
miles would...
definitely covers it.
Yeah.
That would be
that-
Yes, so that's an
anticlimactic.
alternate end to this.
You
Then
go
you put-
down there, activate
Whack
the
it.
engine. There's
No,
a
whack it.
Flash, yeah, you whack it, a flash of violet white light happens, and you go out and there are no more demons. You just... Where are the
You're home.
demons?
Everyone is home.
Well, the
We
underdog
don't know
is...
what happened.
Yeah, the underdog is still the material plane, so the players would be still there, but when they go around trying to find demons to kill, they're gone.
I hate to be the DM who had to deal with that.
Yeah.
Like they'd be like,
That's
yeah,
pretty much like, you know, oh, we're building to the end, and now you've just magicked the demon away, and fuck.
that's so disappointing.
I suppose you've got the drow you can use, but it's not the same, is it?
Yeah, I do think that's an excellent point in time for DM BR basically go, okay, there's a flash of violet white light, while the wheels are spinning in your head going, okay, I can't remove the entire threat, I have to come up with something new now, but it can't have had no effect, but maybe it shouldn't have that much effect.
Well, I've just been informed that that section of the Underdark is about 500 miles across, so it would deal with the central, like 200 miles,
Okay,
and
so
then all
yeah,
the stuff around the edges would still be there.
it would probably
However,
at least
that's a
hit
huge help.
Baphomet and Yenogu, at least.
Yeah, definitely hit the
Yeah.
two of them,
Yeah, I would say
Then
so.
you can at least explore the labyrinth in peace.
Apart from
Well.
gnolls and
Relative
Minotaurs.
peace.
No, yeah. There's still gnolls, there's still minotaurs, there's still underdark flora and fauna.
So
They're still all on drug.
Oh yeah. So yes, that was
And
that
then-
was the maze engine.
13 becomes the ancient one.
Yes, and then you go to leave, and 13.
This-
But who was it that suggests 13 was the ancient one? Was it Ishidoro?
Alright.
I think it was 13.
13
I-
started and then I
It was
back,
13, yeah.
It's the
and then
one of the two
Ishidoro
of you.
backed him up.
It's always one of the two of you.
Yep.
Hey, that sounds mildly accurate. Like, it's like,
It worked.
Did work. I mean, when someone comes up to you, and I can't exactly remember how the conversation went, but they went like, "We're waiting for the chosen one" or something, or we were waiting for the ancient one, and 13 went, "That's me," just to see what would happen. Like, and then I rolled well,
Yeah.
which
Oh,
is usually how things work for me. I'll try this.
It's-
Oh, it worked.
it's
That's
the
very
Ghostbuster
true.
theorem.
That's very true.
If someone asks you, you're a god, Ray, you say yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's the worst could happen, really? You know, oh, we're waiting
We'd have
for the
more
one.
minutes.
That's me! No, it's not. Okay!
We'd have more Minotaur meat on our hands than you ever dream of, and even more infighting about, like, the ethics of Minotaur slaughter.
Hey,
I don't know.
didn't
I
eat
think
Minotaurs
the
after
divide-
it became the Ancient One.
I think the divide deepened after we learned that the Minotaurs were eating bread.
Yeah, green.
They had grain.
Yep.
They were so tasty. They were grain-fed.
The next episode, it was just so enjoyable watching Rasthikos just be like, I knew it. I am proved right. I have been vindicated.
Vindication.
It was like the most perfect bit.
Oh yeah. So we'll move on to episode 16. So this was the episode with the worm writhings, the dragon, and the kobolds. So what do you remember of this episode?
I remember Ishidoro starting off really well and then ending up in a net trap.
I remember weaponizing Stool,
Yes.
pretending to be a great wizard.
Still seemed perfectly okay with this. That's slightly concerning.
out of my head.
I mean, by that kind of point, Stool was very amiable to anything we suggested, really, wasn't
I mean, if we
He
gave
was
the little guy a
completely
knife,
frightened.
he? Yeah, he was like
If we-
totally in love with you, Tris.
if we gave him a knife and pointed him in a direction, he would stab the motherfucker.
Oh yeah, he'd take out their ankles, go
Or
for those
try.
Achilles tendons,
Oh god.
like trip and fall.
What? I mean, we don't know how strong Stool is.
Yeah,
would
true. But
try.
he would try. I mean, he's also naturally very disarming. Like, he's just like a child with a knife.
Oh,
What have you got there?
I like the way you say disarming, and the word that comes to my head is disturbing. Like, think about it, a child standing there with a kitchen knife. Just standing there with a knife.
It's just Chucky. I mean, cuter,
Yeah.
but Chucky. Also
No,
Chucky
can
that
we
can
not
get
think
inside
about
your
children
head.
standing there with kitchen knives? I have a child,
know.
guys. Please, let's not. And you know what my child looks like? She looks like that ghost kid from The Grudge.
She's gonna be standing over your bed one night.
Yeah, it's not cool.
Mommy!
It's not cool.
as long as no one babysits her and teaches her to go.
Yeah, no, actually, somebody did try and teach me that because for Halloween the one year we dressed her up like that kid from The Grudge.
Has anyone taught her how to do the upside down spider walk yet?
No, but she does actually do gymnastics, so she should be
Well.
able to do it pretty soon.
So yes, this episode started with you being in the Minotaur village, and the Ancient One had a sandwich and had some food, and then you all spoke, and I think all you remember was the Minotaur saying that we're just waiting for Lord Inigo to get back, and then we'll truly appraise the Ancient One, and all of you were like,
Lord
Or Baphomet. The other one.
The other guy.
Did we not spend a bit of time standing looking at an altar going, right, this is a demonic altar. What would happen if we
Yes.
smashed the gem on there?
If we smash the gem on a demonic altar, that's not going to get rid of it, is it?
Yeah,
No.
I really feel
That
we
was-
spent far too much
that was
time
the-
debating that.
Yeah.
We were just waiting for him to come back.
honestly, I'm the
And
same
then we
use as
thought-
someone saying if I throw this pigeon hard enough into my dirty washing, will it remove the bloodstains?
That's a very good
You
analogy.
never know.
Yeah. But I think
You don't
at
know
that
how
point
hard
we
I can
decided
throw.
that maybe we should leave before the demon gets here.
Yeah, that was also my primary concern. Like, if he
Yeah.
comes back, he's not going
We
to
are
exactly...
so dead.
He didn't look like a conversationalist, that's all I'm saying. My experience of my dearly departed Knoll comrades was, you know, slightly disturbing, so I don't want
Very
anything to do with it. Very swift indeed. I really enjoyed the bits with the kobolds and the trading and everything with Stu. Just like what I imagine to be singing at like really high levels of volume inside their heads.
You mean scaly tasties and squishy tasties and all that stuff?
Yes, that was fun.
I'm quite amused by the thought that Stool might have started singing to them in Drow.
Oh yeah, because you
Around
keep singing
me.
them.
That would probably work quite well.
Oh.
That'd be quite scary for kobolds in the Underdark, I imagine.
So you basically went into this sort of area, found some dead drow, found the kobolds, chased them, Ishidoro ended up in a net, and then you found out that the kobolds had a dragon.
Yes, because when they turned up with the egg, we were like, wait a minute. If they've turned up with eggs, they have to have the dragon somewhere nearby.
I think
And
you picked up on that. I didn't.
Well, I asked Stool to see if he could find the dragon and talk to her.
It does lead to my one of my favourite lines of, can we see her? And eventually you got to see her, and then you went, can we ask her if she's alright? Are you alright? And the dragon just looked at you like, really? Really? For fuck's sake.
I have to ask, was that based on me, that response?
No. It wasn't
Good.
based on you, but it was very much a, there's a dragon. It's tied up and doesn't look happy. And then the response of, are you happy, dragon? And it's just like, really? Really?
Because that sounds awfully like me, in fairness.
I mean, it's only polite.
Well, you know, we didn't want to charge in and then grossly offend her by trying to
Yeah.
save her. And then she was just like, what the fuck?
I was fine. It's like, that entire session of like then just stabbing people, like just walking around while they have their heads covered, like just trying to avoid the noises inside their head and just like, you're stabbed, you're also stabbed.
Well, if we hadn't, they'd have starved.
Oh yeah, you know. All in the name of the greater good. The greater good.
Greater good. So, you release the dragon.
And she asks where her two sons are.
That was confusing.
You've only met one.
And then you decide to sit down and tell her everything.
Yes. Because she's a powerful ally. And fuck knows we need one when we've got Baphomet and the Knoll Demon.
Inigo.
And our second best ally are the inscrutable stone giants.
Yeah.
They were no help whatsoever. Oh, there's a prophecy that basically says what is going on right now. Fine. But you won't tell us what it says is going to happen next.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that so much just because after the third time I realized that that's what you're going to keep doing every time we talk about the giants.
Literally, if you ever listen to Archive, you will hear me and Amy talk about it, and literally we get to, I think it's episode 16 or 17, and literally it's just like, she's just like, the giants is going to keep doing this, and I'm like, yep, they're not going to say anything about it. They're just going to keep repeating the
third
prophecy,
time.
and things are going to keep happening, and the giant's going to keep pointing at them and going, the whole point is to drive you all mad.
It worked.
It did. Yeah.
I thought
good.
it was great.
Like,
I loved it.
at one point I was like,
I
let's
also
go.
enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed it.
It's one of these things that you could. I really started leaning into with them. Like I started joining in with them and shouting about the prophecy.
It literally just came down to I'd try and find 2 or 3 different things that they just randomly stand, point at, and just go, it's the prophecy! And all of you at this point, it just, when it got to, I think it was the episode when you were going to go back to Visvin's Tower, or maybe the episode after that you're just like, yes, it's the prophecy.
Yeah.
You just accepted it, and I was like, yeah, great, cool.
I mean, after that point, there was it was like, okay, we just gotta keep doing stuff. Let's just keep doing stuff.
Yep.
Pretty much.
So,
I am surprised you let us have the dragon. Like you.
Yeah.
the dragon wasn't in the book or anything. The dragon was mostly just because I needed to have an end to where the dwarves got this egg from. Because there was the confusion about whether it was worm or worm and the worm writhings, and then there was all these like actual worms there, and you were just like, oh right, well maybe it's this, and then they've got a dragon as well. It just was one of those things. I just thought it adds to sort of the story, adds to a lot of other things as well.
Yeah.
So, what happened to the second one? Because that
The second
never
egg
really
was the
came
one
back.
that Thembershad either hid or destroyed. No one really knows. Either destroyed or ate or got rid of, but it was the one that was going to replace Thembershad.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the timelines on that makes me think that it was probably... Was it his brother, or was it his brother and his son?
Brother and son, I think.
Yeah,
Because
that's
a number
what I
of years
thought.
they'd have had Thembershad for, but the whole thing
Yeah.
with Thembershad was led for the dwarves have realised that we fucked this up. We had no idea how to look after a dragon. And look
Yep.
at him, he's just become this, and they just point at Thembershad, who's just a mess. And they're just like, yeah.
What irresponsible pedo. I mean, seriously.
So, yeah.
I mean, I'm glad they died in a fire, so yeah. Serves them
He
right.
did get some spectacular revenge.
Yes.
He did.
I liked it that we enabled all of that. We were just like, yeah, go ahead, kill them all.
So, the dragon destroyed Baphomet and Inigo.
Yes.
Yep.
Which was a big relief. I was like,
Yes,
how are we
that
going to
was
deal with those
huge.
guys?
Yeah, they are, I think, just lore-wise, of all the demons, the biggest is combat in-your-face type of demon lords.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Demogorgon's as powerful, but Demogorgon, at least, if you go with the old lore stuff that barely in use, Demogorgon has the ability to plan. It's just that his two heads disagree on everything.
Yeah.
Fair.
Baphomet and Yenagu are just... I mean, Yenagu's the demon prince of butchery and slaughter. Baphomet's the demon prince of savagery,
Yeah, significant overlap in their department.
which might be why they don't like each other. They share office
Yeah.
space.
Office politics.
I mean, for Inigo, I did have to bring in an 8th sin, which was just going to be bluntly intolerance, because the Gnolls just hate the Minotaurs, and the Minotaurs are quite prideful, so they are the sort of pride side of it all. That's the way I did it in the sort of demons with sins way we did it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had to come up with an 8th one, and the only 8th
Yeah.
one I could think of was intolerance.
I did not make that connection. I just thought you were going with the general Gnoll theme of cannibalism, which could also very much be a sin.
Well, yeah, but I think if cannibalism became a sin as itself, I think you'd be a lot more cannibalism happening before it happened. But yeah.
God, no.
I think it worked though,
Yeah.
because the Minotaurs were they felt demonic. They had this
Yeah.
very clear demon influence,
Yeah.
but they were,
Regal.
yes, they were prideful, but they were also much kinder.
Yeah.
It's actually sort of a halfway view I'm going with in my own campaign with Minotaurs. Of course, I've made a bunch of mythology that's barely going to be used because none of my players are playing Minotaurs, and yeah, but I've basically dug up some old 4th edition article that was once written going how Baphomet's the demon prince creator of Minotaurs, but also the goddess of civilization made them her pet project. So now the Minotaurs are sort of pulled in these two conflicting directions, that they were created by savagery but also have a natural pull towards civilization and order. So every Minotaur has to sort of choose one or find a way for those to coexist.
I mean, I once drew up a
like
Minotaur
that.
character for a campaign that never happened, where it was... I'd spoke quite a lot to the DM before, and it was talking about the concept of a Minotaur race being like mazes are part of their religion. So they're naturally they look at something and immediately go, oh right, okay. They don't see a mess, they see everything's worked out and everything looks like it's a mess, but it's complete, perfect order.
I think that's actually a racial ability they have in Pathfinder.
It's just, this was years ago, this was about 5-10 years ago, at least.
Oh yeah, they copied it from you, of course.
No, my brain just happens to be yours. It was just the whole concept that
minds think
Minotaurs should
alike.
have mazes as part of their, religion, and nothing will ever be like a simple, like, a long and turn for a Minotaur. It'll always be this just huge, complex web, but they'll understand it completely.
Which is easy for them. I have a soft spot for like players like finding out that monsters are people too. Like I run that theme so much in every game that I'm in. It's like monsters are people too is like one of the biggest things that I love putting in. So like
Yeah.
things that they earlier fought actually have civilization and have like a thought process and morals and ethics and all that stuff. But it's not the same ethics that general civilization would follow. It's a different viewpoint.
with the way I've built up I've got a bunch of documents basically building up this one setting that has most of the ideas I like in it, so that I can just use that for whenever I need to run a game. And I really like monstrous races are still people, they're still sentient, they're still capable of goodness, but sometimes certain play sessions you just want to have faceless horde run into. I tried, it has not come up yet because my current players are basically, they're staying in a city the entire time. They haven't been out in the wilderness where there would be, more of the monstrous races. But the way I've tried to justify it is by having each sapient race have a divine sponsor. So the monstrous races are all bound to an evil god, enforcing something of that on them, and while they can struggle against it and succeed, it is a struggle.
That's
sort of allowing me to have my faceless horde, if that is what is, most interesting, most fun at the moment, but also play with they could be more, and you could help them.
Yeah, that sounds really appealing.
Mm-hmm.
The number of times that I write things that, but then again I think it's because I'm not anarchic, but I'm quite distrustful of a lot of ways people are, especially with the way people think and the way people follow things without actually wondering why they're doing it.
It's also like, I feel that, I don't know if it's the same for you, but I love it when something established is subverted. It makes it all the more interesting, or it just completely throws you for a bit. And going back to our earlier discussion about cinema, that's also something that really appeals to me as a theme in most media that I consume. If I can't see it coming, or it just comes out of left field and it completely subverts my expectations, I am always 100% taken by it. It just makes you pause and kind of think about it, which is what most media should do, in my opinion.
So, and now we've had that deep philosophical discussion. Anything else on episode 16? I think we're on.
Also, I can't believe we skipped over this, but I grabbed the magic sword and smashed the dragon chains.
Oh yes, the magic sword.
I are good.
Yes. I love that scene. That's one of my favourite scenes of you grab the magic sword off Layla and it's like, what are you doing? Hold me properly. And you're like no, bang. Hold me properly. No, bang.
I couldn't keep a straight face. I think I muted a couple of times when you started doing the magic sword voice, because all I could, I just couldn't control myself. I just put it on mute and I'd laugh a lot, so I didn't disturb him.
It's just the fact that he was like, fine, I'll do what he says, and just to prove him that he's wrong, and he rolled, and I think it was a natural 20. I just cut straight through, and the sword starts giving you a lecture, but see, I know it better than you.
And then you give it back, which is just the most kind of boss move ever. You're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
In many ways I love that sword, in many ways I really fucking hate it as well.
And you were so torn about putting that in.
I was genuinely torn about putting that in.
Look, talking weaponry is always awesome.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
Don't ever doubt whether or not to put talking weaponry in. Doesn't matter if it's evil, doesn't matter if it's dumb, doesn't matter if it's really unhelpful. Talking weaponry is always awesome.
He was worried that it was overpowered.
No, it was more kind of trying to... One of the things I don't like doing is I don't like having an NPC that overshadows the cast. And I think Gazrum was about as close as I was willing to get with it, that he was there and he was interacting, but he wasn't doing much. Whereas the sword literally would start leading combat and stuff like that if he was done as he is in the book. And that's what I didn't want.
Gazrum was very informative. Yeah, Gazrum was
female
more...
in the book. I think the sword is female in the book.
Is the sword female in the book? I'll double check this.
It's probably just in one offhand mention, because again, I don't think the gender of a voice from an inanimate object is that important to its identity.
I think in our version I just made it male in Spanish, but
yeah, you went with that Latin lover feel.
Yes.
When you
Latin lacerator.
When you started talking in that accent, all I could think of is the bit in Discworld where he finds the sword that teaches him how to fight. Rincewind finds the sword and it just attaches itself to his hand, and then he just becomes an expert sword fighter. I feel that Gazrim was always helpful. He was like kind of a reference point at when we were sort of
Gazrin
flagging.
was about as close to a comic relief character as I could write without actually giving him jokes. Like, the number of times that you would ask him something and he would either mishear you or come out with something daft or cause something stupid to happen around you was literally just because I was just like, how do I get this out? Oh, they're asking Gazrim. Brilliant, I'll just use Gazrim. By medium of Gazrim, I will find a way to do this.
In the tower, fighting treasure imps. Some of us crawl out the side of the tower just because we wanted to leave.
Regarding the sword... Oh, its voice is kind and feminine. The sword can speak, read and understand common and communicate with the wielder telepathically. It knows every language you know while you're attained to it. It's sentient, and it's also terrified of the dark and abandonment.
That kind of makes sense when you said it was supposed to be found in a tomb.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you've been left in the dark and alone for however many years,
Well, yes.
and
but
someone found you.
It still just has that kind of... I just don't want to bring a needy NPC in when I don't have to.
Yeah, true.
Because a needy NPC, when it's literally like a support quest or a take quest, that's fine. But when it's something like a sword that you might carry with you for the rest of the adventure, yeah.
I mean, to think of it, I think that was an episode where you were missing Tauno, like you were playing, I think you were on holiday or something, but like when we found the sword, there was always that like, oh hey, Layla took it. But like, I was like, later on when you found out we had a magical sword, the whole interplay of like,
Oh, I wanted a sword.
that was that bit, like a little bit, I love that bit. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite ironic that it was the fighter that couldn't bear to hurt anyone that ended up with the magical sword.
That wanted to hurt people.
That desperately wanted to kill demons.
Anyway.
The dragon burns the two demons. We grab the gems, stuff them in the bag, and fly on back to the giants.
Yes.
Yeah.
of course,
And
we're still shouting.
Yes, and this is where we really give the prophecy joke.
This is when the prophecy thing starts,
Damn
yes.
So annoying. So annoying. However, at this point, Chardrilth the dragon fucks off to talk to Thimbershod. And it doesn't
we say
sound like it
talk.
goes well.
No.
Mom!
But this goes on to episode 17. Which...
No, not yet.
No?
Because we destroy the gems, and then the
Yeah.
giant crack appears.
Yes, the inky
On top.
void.
The
The
giant
Underdark.
black abyss of inky void appears in the ceiling.
Yeah.
I thought we fucked up when that happened. I was like, okay, that was the wrong option.
Kind of.
Then we go on to episode 17, which is the one where you start by getting annoyed with the giants. And
Yes.
then you notice Vizarin's assistant, Small Goblin, has arrived, and you send Gazrim and 13 to go and research stuff in the library while the rest of you go and speak to Vizarin.
Yep.
So what do you remember of this episode?
Well, we tried to keep the fact that we had all the reagents secret,
Didn't.
but his snitch of a goblin assistant turned us in. And we happened to mention the Braille journal, which, I mean, it all worked out in the end, but I think there are multiple ways we could have had that encounter go.
Yeah.
There were
that was,
certainly smarter ways, but like,
We mentioned the journal, he grabs it, reads it very fast, even though it's Braille, decides that he's now powerful enough to fight the demon he's been keeping under the tower, leaving us to deal with potentially being collateral damage and some treasure-seeking imps things.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was a fun episode only because I feel that our annoyance from the giants not giving us any information led us to just be a bit more desperate in trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am really interested, Nikolai, in how could this have gone? Like, when we mentioned the Braille journal, you rolled a die, and based on what you rolled, Viserin took it and he summoned the demon to battle it. And then you rolled dice during that battle to see how it went, ending with them destroying each other.
Yes.
How could any of this have gone in different directions?
It was all depend who would win. It was kind of like the last, again, to reference Strahd, it was kind of like the last battle with Strahd between the wizard and Strahd, where when we did it, it was, there's two people who are actually equal of power who are fighting. And Viserin would have gained, if you'd given Viserin the stuff for the portal, he'd have made a potion, drank it, and basically got powerful. But instead you gave him the journal and he got it from there. But either way, either one of those two options, he basically became powerful, and he was like, I can finally defeat the demon that's got its claws in me. So he was probably going to basically fight the demon anyway, but yeah, I wasn't expecting you to just hand over the journal to him either. I thought he was going to have to debate with it for a while as well, so yeah.
I mean, as far as I remember, we sort of take it out of the bag and say, hey, do you read Braille? Because we found this book in Braille, and then he just grabs it out of our hand and we go, well, okay, he's reading it, and then he finishes reading it and goes about to do this.
Yep, he finishes reading it and his eyes start glowing because he recognises a lot of the stuff.
Well, we thought we were doing the right thing by keeping the dragon eggs away from him, and then he didn't need it anyway, so...
I mean, what if he had used them and then we would be like totally like messed up because we didn't have the equipment to open the portal again?
I mean, Viserin's whole thing is he could open the portal without all the ingredients anyway. That was his whole shtick. The reason he needed the stuff is because he needed the stuff because he wanted to
be powerful,
demon, basically.
Right, okay. I see.
But he was completely consumed by someone stealing all his ideas, really.
So theoretically, if he had made the potion, and before he drank the potion, we gave him the book, and then he did this thing with the book, and one of us had drank the potion, what would have happened to the person who drank the...
You would have become very arcanic, put it that way.
Well, the actual ancient one.
Missed opportunity there.
Well, Rasthikos didn't need any more power. He's already crushed plenty of demon gems.
See, soup.
This is true.
Is super relevant now.
So, some of you decided you were going to run out of the building by crawling out through the window and climbing down.
You made it sound very appealing in my defense.
It did sound appealing. Everything about it was... Getting out of here is a really good plan.
Because when the fight ended, the tower collapsed.
The imps were proper fun, like, you know,
the whole point of the imps was meant to be that they had the same problem Viserin had of they were fascinated by any item you showed interest in, but because literally you just went, fuck this, and ran, instead of trying to fight them, they just were like, well, we'll just chase you and just grab anything we can off you.
I think I mentioned I looked around to see if I could find a spear and roll too low, but I would have wanted to grab it and throw it at the demon. How, on that, hypothetical, how would that have gone?
It probably would have just, if you'd hit it, it could have died and someone else would show interest in the spear. And they just put the spear in the bag and that would have been it, really.
Okay.
Basically, they showed any interest in any items of any possessions, and the two ways to deal with them was either just sort of like shed all your gear off and just stand there, and then they're just like, oh, well, you've not got anything of value, I'm going to leave you alone. Kind of like a bear would, but in a way, kind of like if you just throw your gear down, they just lose interest in it. And the other one was just to kill them, but the problem is they just kept respawning, but then the tower exploded, so you were fine.
Also, like, I thought your hypothetical about throwing the spear at the demon, you'd still get shot with lightning, because they're like superheroes fighting.
I did get shocked by lightning anyway.
Yeah.
A couple of times, if I recall.
Yeah.
And one time because I reminded that you were wearing, like, you were touching something metal. I'm sorry about that.
I always like to imagine this scene, or this episode, if it was ever made into, like, a live action thing. And there would be, like, these, like, scenes of utter chaos of you guys desperately running away and escaping and being mob attacked by these, like, goblin impy monster things and getting electrocuted. And then it cuts the 13, our pal.
Yeah, I just love
Sitting there in the library with sandwiches, just...
It's like spinning round and then looking at you and Gazrim just sort of sitting like cross-legged on the floor reading big books about soup. And in the background you see this like Rasthikos hanging out the tower, desperately holding onto the side as his like lightning shoots through and shakes him. And 13 and Gazrim just sort of share a laugh in the background, as in the background this whole smoke starts billowing out the tower, and yeah.
Like, oh, this one says you should add parsley. What a twist!
Yeah, but also interspersed by like the three giants going, it's the prophecy. Just like at random.
It's like, can you hear something? Oh, it's just the giants.
I could have sworn I heard some lightning. Did you see a flash? Nah. Oh, look, this one involves carrots.
I have an intense workload, but I now want to make a comic about that. Just two panels side by side. With just a giant in the middle. It's like going right down. I really liked your description of when they actually kill each other. And you just like unceremoniously but very extravagantly disposed of Vizerin. Just like a flaming corpse.
Yeah, flaming corpse flying through the air, landing on the ground, and immediately like, just as you're like, is he dead? I'm not sure if he's dead, and then just this like just unceremoniously just go, yeah, he's dead.
That was a good one. I really enjoyed that. I think it was this episode at this point where all the other episodes were intriguing, but this one was like, everything was starting to roll faster and faster. I think our decision making, the time taken to take decisions, became really fast and frenetic.
This is where it got stressful.
Yeah, we were all scrambling for like, let's do.
Yeah, we were just reacting to stuff. We weren't planning. Which is just, the right reaction to have when a great big void crack keeps getting bigger and bigger in the sky. And first of all, we think, oh, is it connected to the gems? And it kind of is. Is it connected to that weird machine? Do we want to go back and look?
Do we want to go back and look? Well, that would be nice, but do we have time?
Yeah.
Someone stood there going, is there maybe still a staircase somewhere? Please make there be a staircase somewhere.
I think my question was, because everything was slowly getting sucked up, I was like, is there anything left to walk across?
I think it was the fact that you spent like half the sort of second half of this episode debating if you should smash the gem or not.
Yeah.
And then you saw what happened with Thimbershard, which is basically just Thimbershard being killed by his mother after the mother, that was my city.
Yeah.
Whiny
poor Thimbershard.
Yeah, poor guy couldn't get a break.
I can't remember actually, which is odd considering this is about demon gem smashing, which is usually my forte, but did we agree to smash the gem, or did I just choose to do it?
Just chose to do it.
No, you eventually decided
I suggested
to do it.
And then I
It was for science.
It was like 50-50 split, and then it just kept going either way and then back again, and then eventually just reached a point where Ishidoro went, nope, I'm for smashing it now, and everyone went, oh.
Yeah, because it was for science. It was for science. I was like, okay, if we smash another one, let's happen. And like we had plenty to spare, so I was like, let's just try one.
So you smashed the remaining gem, and the gravity started fucking up all around you, and the crack grew bigger in the roof, and you sent word to everywhere to bring sort of allies to Gravenhollow, which is where we're at for the start of episode 18.
Yeah.
So, episode 18 was the one where you had the meeting between all your allies, and then you went to Mentabranzan. So what was your... Actually, you went to the Minotaur camp to look at the demon engine again, and then you came back to Gravenhollow and then went to Mentabranzan. So what was your memories of this?
Planning. Like, contingencies upon contingencies. Planning.
All the talking.
And I love the planning bits in all games. I have to say, like, I like it more than the actual plan when it's executed, because it never goes to plan. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna, this is gonna be the most tactical thing ever, and then it all goes to shit.
Yeah, because that's when you start rolling the dice. In your
Yeah,
head,
but
everything's going to work awesome.
It's also like you run over the plan a million times, but then someone does something. Like sometimes it's not even the dice. It's just like, what am I doing again? It's just like, then it's just winging it. So yeah. And then I remember we made like so many trips back and forth as well. Like, so we went to see the engine, then we confirmed things, we came back, then we asked everyone to go with us because for some reason I think Ishidoro was definitely convinced that the portal was in Menzo Baranzan because of all the
I think
talk
we all
of like
were.
Yeah, I think you all were at one point.
because it was all about like how they were getting the grain and how they were getting the ore, and they had the only contact to the
Yeah.
outside world.
Yeah, because
So
how
we
were they getting everything? How were they trading with the surface?
I mean, they may have had a portal, but like the thing was that it was going to be one of those. It started to sound a lot like one of those Lord of the Rings scenes where everyone amasses outside the city and we could charge it. And then someone very cleverly suggested we should scope it out. I can't remember who it was, but that was good.
So, do you have any memories of the meeting with the sort of council of friends, or do you just want to go straight on to Menzo Baranzan?
I have no memories because I was not there for that episode.
Right, okay.
This is kind of the point at which my notes stop. I found it was definitely going to be very difficult to try and keep this alliance together, which is partly why we decided to sneak to Menzo Baranzan, because at least that way we could have a better idea of what we were getting into, and we could keep the dwarves and the minotaurs separated and direct them at different places.
Yep, because I remember the Dwarven King being very dodgy, is what I really got from it. Like, he was always looking out for himself, kind of thing. I did like the fact that she suggested that we get the mushroom. We tried to save Ramses, which was like
the giant mushroom. Yep.
Yeah, we hit like peak chaotic good at that point. Like, we were most definitely like, we're gonna save everyone, and that's that.
Yep.
In for a penny, in for a pound at that point we were.
Yeah.
That, but also because the Myconids were kind of dependent on Oruntheus. And essentially, by that point, for Trace, the Myconids were the purest people she'd met, and it was pretty much on still just kind of going, oh, you smell nice, and not really caring about anything else.
Yeah.
And she was just like ridiculously protective of him.
I have a question for Trace. I know we've gone over this before, but like, I don't know how Myconids mature, but at some point, like, Trace would be the person that they would mind meld with, like, they would follow their own things. Would you, like, eventually, like, because they grow to be pretty big, right? Like, Myconids are like 6 foot or something. They're
I think they
huge.
start very small, and if they live for several hundreds of generations, maybe they grow to maybe like 4 foot or 6 foot, maybe at very, very peak. But I think most of the Myconids in this were all about 2 or 3 foot tall.
So my question is, what do you see Trace doing? Like, would she always keep Stool around?
I think it'd be very difficult to separate them to some extent, but I suppose at that point it would be up to Stool, really. Although, unless they decide to go back to the Underdark, because
but
it'd
like-
be very much easier for Trace to move around in the above world. It would get very difficult for Stool once he was like 5-6 feet tall. So I think it would very much depend on what was best for each of them at the time, but I can't imagine that she would leave them without returning, like helping them to get back to a Myconid circle. So he's back with his people, because they're not meant to be solitary, really.
Yeah, but that's the point, right? Stool had bonded more so than all of us. I think like Trace was the point of reference for everything. I think they had the chance many times to like kind of go back and rejoin their community, but almost all the times like they decided to stay with us. And whether that's part of the story, but I feel like something to do with how we always, I think universally, the entire party had no problems with Stool being around. In fact, many times he was the most helpful person to have around.
Oh yes, the telepathy was insanely helpful.
Yeah, you're talking about overpowered items. Stool was like,
Oh yeah, hugely so. The thing is that like Treese would never be able to meld with him because they both need to, like, they've done it so that the melding is done through particular kinds of spores.
right.
But she can't produce spores.
Makes
They
sense.
might eventually find a magical way of being able to simulate that, but also at this point, I'm pretty sure that Stool doesn't want to risk melding with a lot of the other Myconids because they are pacifist and they were so easily traumatized like before, and the amount that Stool has been through since then. And as we were saying, quite happy to go, oh, you're going to hurt my friends. I'm going to stab you now. Completely does not fit with like the general Myconid society.
Yeah.
He's an adventurer now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's one boss
Can't
now.
go back.
I just have this, like, because I often, like, see all of these things as visuals, as art and stuff, but I always, like, had this image of, like, how everyone would look, like, maybe 50 or 60 years on, and it was always, like, Stool's just this massive hulking thing that now just follows Treese around and just squishes anybody she doesn't like. She just...
As adorable as that is, I think Myconids take, as I said, several hundred generations to get even remotely big. But it's still adorable. I might be wrong. Might be wrong.
Elves live quite long as well,
That's true.
Yeah. But
so
it's
I
just
can
the...
see them having another 150 years or so. But yes, at that point, Stool would only be about probably not even halfway through his lifespan, his natural lifespan.
All I'm
So-
saying is that at some point he has to learn how to defend himself.
It will be interesting.
You'll just happily clap
We may
back
find
all the
out
time.
at some point.
Yeah.
So, what was your thoughts on Menzoberranzan?
Creepy?
Spooky. Yes.
Yeah. Quite unnerving. Which I guess
Fair
it was
enough.
meant to be, so that worked really well.
Yeah.
At this point, we were starting to question whether or not we were actually going to defeat this last creature.
I think going into Menzoberranzan was all like, let's find answers, and then there were none to be found, and it was also like tinged with a sense of like hopelessness for
Yeah.
me, at least, like for Ishidoro at least. Like, it was just like, oh, so it's not what I thought it was, kind of stuff. And that like elevated the panic and the fear kind aspect of it, which is like, oh shit, there's like, now there's people depending on us to like fix this. Earlier, like, there were stakes, yeah, but like these were like upping the stakes significantly. Last few episodes were just like a constant, it was like a good high. It was like full of 10. I like that.
It was hoping to try and like keep the sort of tension ticking upwards.
Yeah,
So we've got
I think you succeeded, because by the end we were like screaming. I remember just being like, don't smash him, smash him, don't smash him.
Yeah, I think the bit that really scared us was when we realised that they'd managed to kill Demogorgon somehow, but we couldn't see who or what had done that.
Traps.
So that was quite,
Unsettling.
like, oh shit, what else is here?
Yeah.
If it's something that could take down Demogorgon, we're screwed.
It's also like in the other bits when we had a gem sort of try to affect us, it wasn't intensely successful. Like,
It was hilarious.
It was hilarious. I think the whole goblins bite harder than anything known to any race in the universe was like hilarious.
yeah.
Feral goblins. I'm still so sorry about your arm.
So we have kind of blurred the Menzoberranzan from 18 and 19 together, so we'll just continue doing that. So what was your thoughts on the final episode of this, which was episode 19, which was the end of Men's Baranzan and then returning to Gravenella?
Highly stressful.
Very, very stressful.
Something of a chase.
Yep. And the Pleasure Palace.
Oh yeah,
That was
scary.
Therese was really quite panicked.
I also love that trope of like thing that is clearly more powerful than you, just slow walking towards you, like just imminent death all the time. It's a good motivator. To move faster.
Yeah, it has enough power, it doesn't need to run. It will walk after you and catch you. It doesn't need to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I have something that is between 18 and that I don't remember we did, but we freed some slaves.
We did,
We
yeah.
did. That was in the end of 18, yes. You freed some slaves,
Yes,
they were very
and-
confused.
Yes. And
Which was reasonable.
I don't remember wrapping that up, or like I don't remember what happened apart from the fact that we freed them.
I think you freed them and they just ran out the front, the sort of main gate of Men's
They're-
Baranzan.
Oh, sorry, I'm now actually looking up myconids. The rapport spores means that. Oh no, that's how they do the telepathy. I wonder. No, that's the telepathy with other myconids. I think they potentially might be able to meld, but as written, they have a lifespan of 24 years.
Oh boy.
So,
Oh.
But like a
yeah, I
cat.
think. Yes. Yes.
The-
In which
cat.
case, I can imagine Therese wanting to look after him until the end.
Yeah. Yep.
Your
But
goblin friend has an even shorter lifespan.
Yeah, but like you probably found enough soups to keep you alive for a long time.
Immortality
Maybe.
soup.
You must have. You know, I have great respect for like as written, but I love bending shit to like make it sound cooler. So I'm.
Oh no, I
I'm
wouldn't.
just-
I totally wouldn't put it above 13 becoming like a lich. You know, like a undead wizard lich. Yeah, a lich.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
Goblin lich.
I also
I
would
am
like
going to
that,
make
but
that for another game.
that would be interesting. I've never heard of a goblin lich before. Masquerading as the actual lich's servant, that would be fun.
I've seen a comic of that sort of runs with a joke. It starts with adventurers venturing into an evil lich's lair, and they immediately run into a couple of goblins and say, hey, you're way too high level for this. This is a goblin lair. The lich is dead. He's moved. He's gone. You have to go somewhere else. And then the adventurers leave, and then the lich shows up and pays the goblins.
I love that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever read Yahtzee Crawshaw's Mogworld,
Yes, I've read Mogwart.
but the whole story, yeah, it's so good. Like,
I've not think
I
I've
wanna
read many
play
of his other
D&D in
books,
that
but I've read Mogworld.
oh my god, you need to read Jam. You'd love Jam.
I love his stuff, like on the internet. I routinely like watch all his game reviews and stuff. I've never read a book like
Mogworld is a good
Well-
book about being a minion.
Yeah, but I would also recommend getting his audiobooks because he does the voices and it's even better. It's read by him, so.
Okay, it's on. I'm literally writing it down right now. But yeah, I really enjoyed the last couple of episodes. The bit where we get to the house, it took me a while. It took me a while to like figure out what. First, I thought it was a temple, and then like the more you described it, the more I was like, oh, it makes sense now.
Yeah, it was based around... The first initial idea I had is like if they had someone who didn't need to see what would be different about their house compared to other people's houses, and then my brain went, well, the first thing for a point of reference is like the disaster area stunt ship from Hitchhikers, where everything's just different shades of black because people don't... It doesn't need to respond to anything else because
Yeah.
it's seeing a different... Like,
It just needs to look cool.
yeah, it just needs to see in different spectrums and stuff like that. It doesn't need to be any colour than black. And it was all
Yeah.
kind of that kind of everything is pitch, you can't see anything. There's an unnatural dark that makes it anyone trying to break in, it's so much harder. There's like bells that like make tonal sounds all around, so it like anyone who's used to the dark and stuff can just like pinpoint where you are, but you can't work out what the fuck's going on. It's all that kind of stuff at once, just this. And even then, it wasn't meant to be that sort of frightening a location, but on top of what is happening to make you get there, it became a lot more harrowing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I love the limitation. Sometimes the best kind of like experiences I've had is like when like a sense is limited, or like you have to try and work around not having a sense or not having bearings. That just enhances terror to like a new level. So you're so like used to it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I see the chest, I go touch it and stuff like that. And then you're in a dark room with the carpet, the bit with the carpet, that was just like, that was perfect. When we were searching his room for things.
So what did everyone else think of the dark house?
As far as I remember, I used again the spear to just tap everything in front of, wave in front to catch potential traps, but at the same time just wanting to, get to the end of this hallway. Don't want to stand in one place while there's a demon chasing us, and also while we don't know what this place is.
Yeah, it was a fun puzzle to figure out as we were like sort of stumbling about, and some of us were seeing bits and figuring out other bits, and then we all kind of put it together, I think.
Yeah, not Rasthikos. He's not sharp like that. I mean, he might try to come up with a plan. Yeah, he knows what he can do, and he can think. Yeah, he does it well. He can think about that. Give him a new option, and he'll only, respond to it with things he already knows. If all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And while as a carpenter, you might know a ton about hammers and how to best use them. But if all you have is that hammer, if all you have is the hammer, everything starts looking like demon crystals.
Yeah.
I did think that, like, since there was a point when, like, Rasthikos needed constant light to just wander around in the Underdark, because it was, like, almost like you were used to that kind of limitation way before any of us were. Like, we always used to say, oh, we have to, like, either you're carrying stool or you're wandering close behind someone who has a light, and, like, we worked around it immediately, but that was when, like, it hit me that it's pretty fucking... It's pretty tense if you have to like constantly watch out for that.
Yeah. So dark vision doesn't... Well, it helps massively, but if there's no light at all, then we still can't see anything
I think
at all.
Dark vision is one of those things that has changed a lot if you go by Dungeons & Dragons rule.
Yeah.
I know in the current 5th edition, dark vision functions as if you have dim light. Basically, if it's completely dark, you can still see in black and white the number of feet in front of you as if it was lit by a torch you held.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can't see great. It's sort of like walking around when the sun has just gone down, but it's not completely dark yet. You can't see details a lot, but you can still make your way around. In older editions, you had infrared vision. You had so many different types of vision. It was hard to keep track of.
But that's what superior dark vision has become now. Like there's the superior version of it, which like kind of doesn't let you see infrared, but...
Well, 5th edition has superior dark vision, but it's literally just dark vision with double the range.
Yeah.
So you still don't get infrared and the like. You have other types of vision, blind sight and tremor sense and so on, but that's more than just sight.
Yeah.
I was pretty sure in this episode that we would actually have to fight the demon.
Yeah, I was ready for it.
Yeah. And after a while of Rasthikos like kind of doing the hammer and nail thing, I was like, okay, right, we have, like, there's no choice.
And then you were talking about which one of you to sacrifice?
Yeah, that was a weird conversation.
And then the day was apparently saved by the fact that the dragon was just sort of sitting there just like, I don't trust you, Drow. And the demon's just like, oh, well, it's a Drow, it's fine.
I love that scene.
No way was that just Drow. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. You okay?
You okay, dragon?
In no way was that just a Drow. And Therese was so freaked out.
I like the fact that we all charged out at it and then just pointed at it furiously until she set it on fire.
I throw 13 at it. Okay. Throws 13 half the distance.
I forgot about that. That was a true last ditch effort.
Yep.
That was like, pulling out all the stops.
When in doubt, throw the goblin.
Throw 13.
When did we use up the explosive?
He used the bomb to throw at the demon at the start, which caused the pleasure palace to basically collapse in on itself, but the demon to be completely unscathed.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I think I rolled shit.
Yeah.
I rolled like a 5 or something for it, unfortunately. When I should have ran up him and shoved it down his throat, really. I mean, like, she's a goblin. She could have. I mean, was he wearing trousers? But she could have ran up his trouser leg, I guess.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there was something to hold on.
I think every time we see him depicted, he's just wearing like some sort of like leg trousers, something, nothing else. So maybe. But yes. So then the dragon took you all back to Graven Hollow after Gazram appeared, telling you that the giants have done it this time and locked all the other people up in Graven Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
So I instantly went for betrayal. Sudden and unforeseen betrayal. It's like, so this is why they keep screaming about they just don't want us to know. I went like full Charlie Day conspiracy theory, like completely off the rails.
Corkboard and string.
Yeah.
So you returned to Graven Hollow, and then after a short while you managed to smash the gems, and you ended up in the bright light and then the new world. What were your thoughts on the end?
Is it a new world? Or is it just the world up top? Or do we not know?
I don't think we ever actually needed to explain that.
Or is it meant to be that the places from the above world that were pulled into that plane have just returned to where they came from?
Were there places from the top world pulled down? I know Goblin was supposed to have connections to the top.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we ever visited anywhere that said we were from the surface.
No, but I think like according to
We
the
must have ended up there
descriptions,
somehow.
it was like
Yeah.
more like certain bits were transposed back. Like the cities were most definitely transposed back. I don't know if Sloop-de-Doop was, but there were also the Warrens, the place where the kobolds lived. That also like there was a tunnel leading into. So I'd like to think that it was more like everything was returned to the place where it was supposed to belong, and as were we.
Maybe. We shall leave that ambiguous to whatever your own opinion of it is.
I mean, yeah, these are all, I think, relevant questions for you to answer when you write the epilogue.
Yes.
I do
look forward to
feel-
finding out.
I do feel that like after it was over, like as a character, I didn't know what to do with Ishidoro because, and this might be something that could be added other places, but I always thought of him as like a sort of demon hunter, so that was his purpose. And then now we're free, so what does he do? The only thing that like is topmost on his head is like Seraglio. So, like, he would put all his effort into trying to figure out where Seraglio is and what that meant, like, how that came about and stuff. So it's like tracing steps back.
Interesting.
Yeah. In case you forgot, Nikolai, I think the rest of us mentioned similar ideas of what our characters would do before we started this recap. Initially, when we got to the surface, my thoughts on Rasthikos was, well, I can't believe he ended up staying entirely with the group and not doing tons of selfish things. He did do some, but I think I mentioned that I had kind of sort of planned for Rasthikos to be corruptible.
Yes.
That didn't happen.
We just kept hitting him. Like, every time it looked like he was wavering.
Every time he's trying to
Someone just went, no! Bad!
It was just the once.
The arm thing was also like, I know you were under.
Wasn't there at some point though, like, I mean, there was the shovel, because he looked at it. There was one time he was going to go and touch something, and I'm sure Layla slapped his hand.
Oh, yeah. I think I was, the one that we found at the wedding where I picked up the gem and I held it a bit too long before doing something with it, and Layla hit me in the back of the head with a shovel. Then we had, I think, while we were riding in the car, my hand was slapped away when I tried to reach for the gem again.
No one talks to the bucket. No one talks to the bucket.
No one
Exactly.
talks to the bucket.
It was acting like a petulant child.
I think like it was tough love for Rasthikos. Everyone was just like, no, you're not allowed to be this way.
13 really is sorry about his arm. I'm sure when he aches on cold nights, he thinks of her.
Every time he has to drink soup.
He just like has a spoonful of soup and just 1,000-yard stare into it, just like.
As the sort of pain through the arm comes back with every spoonful.
Oh.
I mean, that was a great scene to play, because I love it when characters get stuck under effects of things. So you have to do stuff, and that is always inevitably when the dice rolls are absolutely wild. So, yeah.
I just think I cannot like singularly just count and say, okay, this was my favorite bit in the entire thing, because honestly, like every game we did so many crazy things that it was just a riot. And I'll tell you this, like this is the first campaign I have ever officially finished. Like this is like the first one that's ever reached a conclusion, because all the other ones sort of like petered out, for lack of better words. Like everyone had to go somewhere or do something or whatnot. But this was the first one that I've ever completed, and it was so much fun.
The final thing to ask everyone, now that Abyss is finished, is just what else was your final thoughts on it, really? Is there anything you really liked, really didn't like, anything like that? Just so we can have a sort of final few minutes of discussion about that, and then I think I'll be wrapping up. So let's start with Tauno, actually. Is there anything you haven't mentioned already that you didn't like about everything about this?
I mean, I just really like, the personal touch you put on everything. I've personally done some adaptations of existing stuff, but I usually run it much closer to the book, which I guess you could just, I mean, you at this point know me that much. Nikoli, you could probably have guessed that. I really like how you wanted to make it interesting for you to run, putting your personal spin on most everything. I really like that bit. One thing that confused me at the start, but I went over to actually, was the fact that, I mean, for most of the podcast, in case listeners wouldn't know, I didn't before I started playing, is, you run with your own very, very bare bones, just the essentials system, which does have hit points. But I was surprised quite often that, someone got injured, but there was nothing about the hit points going on. Until we just got to the end where, okay, it's all in the moment. I now have a permanently damaged arm, but still at full hit points, because a goblin bit it too hard. And now I have to live with that. Goblin is supposedly being my friend.
Yes.
And then, you could just picture 13 standing there grinning at him with her shark teeth. We're friends now.
The real adventure was all the injuries we had on.
She only bites
all
people
the injuries
she
you
really
think about at night, yeah. Alright, let's go to Dragon next then.
One of the things that I really loved that is slightly different from what we usually do is that Therese had wild magic. So it wasn't that she had any particular control over it, but if she was incredibly stressed and panicky, then it kind of burst out. It wasn't necessarily any use, wasn't necessarily helpful, but it was really nice to have that kind of extra spark at moments of high tension. Although she was absolutely convinced that she was going to fall prey to the Pleasure Palace demon at the end. And yeah, quite glad that she didn't actually have to sacrifice herself to let everyone else go.
Anything else, or I think that was you?
Well, that was the bit that really stood out as different for me. I liked the setting, I really enjoyed the pace of it. I know we tend to run through things really quickly, but it means that everyone's engaged all the time while we're playing. Like, there's always so much going on that you don't tend to, like, drift off a little bit. So, no, it's just so much fun to play. Thank you.
Alright, let's go for Ishidoro.
Like I already said, man, I just had like all the fun playing with you guys. It was so much fun. When I started, it always happens, like when I start a game like this or I start a game anywhere, I have very set ideas of how I want to do things, and almost immediately they melt away, and then it's just reacting to everyone around. And I can say for sure that like you created a lot of opportunities for just the narrative to shine through. Like Rasthikos, I was also expecting like more mechanics, like, you know, that I'm used to. Like, oh, we have to worry about armor, oh, we have to worry about like weapons, or there has to be a fight. But that was like the least of my worries. The story was what was really keeping me like at my full conspiracy theory best. But I really enjoyed playing with everyone, and I can say that like for sure that I can't now go and play the original because I will constantly compare it to this. So I feel
But why can't we do this? Why can't I eat it to find out what it is?
Exactly. Like, you let me do so
It's
many
just as
crazy
good as
things.
Identify, right?
Yeah. I mean,
It's
if I
according to Skyrim. Can't you eat stuff and find out its properties there?
yeah, pretty much. And really, thank you for running this, and thank you for everyone playing with me. It was super fun. I really enjoyed it.
Cool. Layla?
Yeah, it was so much fun. It was great playing with you. Yeah, especially since I've never met any of you in person, so it was amazing. I had a great time. Thank you so much.
No problem. And finally, Susie.
Again, like, my favorite thing is the way you sort of create this atmosphere of madness and things are going crazy, and it's totally okay. Like, for you, at any rate, as a DM, it's totally okay for you to let us just lean into the madness, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the thing about the Abyss is that kind of, and all your sort of games, is because you've got this kind of mental madness going on, your characters can resist it or they can lean into it, and either way, no matter what direction you pick in the game, there'll be a fun reactions to it.
Yeah.
Which is what I always kind of really enjoy about your games. Like, you could see the character evolution in all the characters, where, like, even by then Rasthikos was, although he wasn't being as selfish, he was being a lot more impulsive, and all the characters just all went just a little bit crazy and had a little thing, you know. Which will be interesting, you know, in the future to go back and revisit them in another setting and see how it goes from there, which is always the best part of D&Ding, is, you know, changing. Is this the story you end up and take the journey you take?
Yeah. I mean, I've always said I'm always the belief that I can write a story, but it should always be about the characters journey through it and how they change and how they adapt and decisions they make and everything. It should be much more your story and what I do is the backdrop, but it's your reactions to what I do that move most of the story along.
Yeah, and sometimes you just throw total curveballs, which we're supposed to be doing.
I throw weird and wonderful shit in because sometimes that's what gets the good reactions.
That's when you end up with Dragonborn down the bottom of, like,
Spiky. Yeah.
Throwing rocks at them.
Screaming at people and knocking them out. Or, actually, I forgot this, my favorite bit was like how many times I stabbed myself with a shock stick.
Oh yeah.
And passed out.
Yeah, that happened quite often. Not
But
ideal.
at the point where I just stopped, I forgot that I had it. Like, for the longest time I was like, nope, if I don't look at it then I don't shock myself.
Yep.
But I feel like I should mention this, but like, I don't know how much, like, how corny or cheesy it is, so who the fuck cares? My friend who plays in my game listens to the podcast, because I told him I was in it and it was super fun. And like me, he has started taking a lot of points from how you run your games. It's like this kind of loose, let people do things and then sort of also be a player, because I feel like that was something that I learned a while ago, and this series, especially for my friend, helped him out a lot, because he was one of those GMs where like GMing is a responsibility and it has to be like serious, and you gotta know the rules and stuff. And then he listened to a couple of episodes of this and he was like, oh, so I can be a player too, I can just have fun with things.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was one of the best things that I took away from this game, and he took away as well. So,
awesome.
I mean, again, it was super fun.
Awesome, thank you. So I guess, unless anyone has any final thoughts they'd like to say before we finally draw a line under this and put it back on the shelf for a couple of months still, the sort of small later project, which we'll probably reveal soon. Unless anyone has anything else they wish to add, I guess it's goodbye from us. And goodbye from the cast.
Thank you, everybody.
I don't want to say goodbye.
I'm waving in case.
You're becoming Belry, oh god.
Well, it seems like a comedic thing to do in an audio-only podcast. Which again
But-
is...
Backfires because now you're explaining the joke.
Even more like
That's-
Belry, it's fine.
And remember, kids, don't speak to the bucket.
So, thank you to everyone who has been listening to our stuff. There will hopefully be 1 or 2 episodes of like additional stuff we have taped that's never made it. It's usually a couple of spare mic checks and stuff next week, but this is the final bit of proper content for Abyss. Thank you for listening, and take care.
Cold silence returns. The waters lay still. This podcast is an adaptation of Out of the Abyss, a 5th edition D&D adventure. It was adapted from the original story by Nikoli Popsky. The podcast features Nikoli, Dragon, Shiraz, Susie Q, Tauno, and Wednesday LeFay. All music was written and performed by Daniel Boström. Artwork was by John Moore. And if you, dear listener, wish to acquire your own sets of finest metal or acrylic adventuring dice, then journey through the Underdark to dndice.co.uk and speak the name Penance RPG at the checkout for a 5% discount off your order. Farewell and Godspeed, for we fear the madness is closing in. Good night out there, whatever you are. Ha 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 ha.